Oh, and good evening. It's October 7th, 2025. We're continuing our discussion collection in our Side the Class series. This series, right, it's from the Bible Project, covers the entire TaNaK, also known as that Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. Those source videos are available for your review on TheDustyFeet.com in that Outside the Class section. The intent of Outside the Class for you to listen to that in-class lecture first. These we try to keep to about 15 minutes, make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but maybe with just a fun and different twist. Our hope with the Dusty Feed is to foster discussion and help build and support communities. If you are not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. DustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Facebook, at The Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. And 3. We have a Discord channel. The invite link is there below. Be vocal, be written, be loving. And 4, and as always, you are welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated, and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on the Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. And of course, before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, so you click the subscribe button. The reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you do click that like button, because that is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So in this series, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, right, the Old Testament. We're going to do it in the original order of the Hebrew Scriptures. Remember, the videos we're going to discuss, they're just tip of the iceberg. They're part of a learning series I highly recommend. And of course, all of them can be found on the Bible Project website. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. Answers? We'll see. So Samuel, we're in the first scroll. This is part 25. One of the things my wife and I enjoy doing is watching many crime dramas, right? To be fair, the majority of them are not based in the United States, right? They're not based in this country. They're not based on our legal system. So I like to keep track of where we are when I'm watching. I try to figure out the differences in the choices, the reactions of not only law enforcement, but also the perpetrators and all the other people that are involved. And what stands out a lot is watching and hearing about people making poor decisions. And you continue to see that spiral downward. Of course, those are only pointed out in that backward view, right? As when the police are looking into your history, and that's when you see the display of choices that you've been made in the past, which are now evident as to why we're now here in the story, in the present. And as this whole part that we get to, we're rolling into the last chapters in the scroll of 1 Samuel, where we will eventually get to the end and the demise of Saul. Oh, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, Saul doesn't make it past the end of the first scroll of 1 Samuel. However, I've heard other stories that have nothing to do with the biblical narrative, but they rather focus on how many times someone can say something, promise something, claim they'll change, say they'll be different, act differently, and then when we get further along in the story, you're really not surprised that really doesn't play out. And if we're seeing what we've seen so far with Saul, then we don't have much hope for Saul's part in changing character, specifically in making different choices. However, as we've already begun to address, we will continue to see the smaller displays of the character regarding David, right? This future King David. Inside of that, what I really enjoy is that David, he's not pressing who he is yet, who he will be. He's very much aware in the moment of what his expected behavior probably should be. So when we get to chapter 23, Saul is in hot pursuit of David. Jonathan, he briefly steps back into this scene. We get his loyalty declaration, which is, I think, vital in the sense that Jonathan's going to put his heart on display. But if we've seen anything about the other stories with these kings and their errors, this could be a problem that is probably going to need to be dealt with in the future. I think we'll see. So 1 Samuel chapter 23, we're going to start in verse 15. Now David became aware that Saul had come out to seek his life while David was in the wilderness of Ziph in Horesh. And Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David in Horesh and encouraged him in God. Thus he said to him, "Don't be afraid, because the hand of Saul, my father, will not find you, and you will be king over Israel, and I will be next to you. And Saul, my father, he knows that also." So the two of them made a covenant before the Lord, and David, well, he ended up staying in Horesh. Jonathan, he went home. But I think that's something we're going to see unfold over the next 7-8 chapters, various states of loyalty. And to be fair to the people that are involved in the story, right, some of them might not be aware of the position that David now holds in God's eyes. We might not know. They're still only aware that they know about who Saul is. Remember, he is still the lawful king of Israel. In those days, it was somewhat clear that if you were alive, right, you remained that person. If you were dead, well, you were no longer that person. So Saul is very much alive. He's very much being Saul. And then he tries to sell us something that fascinates me. I don't know. I don't know if fascinates the right word. It intrigues me because I think about maybe sometimes where we at times, I think we might do the same. Maybe for the most part, maybe probably unintentionally. It's when we invoke God, we bring God into our part of the story. And because I brought God into our part of the story, well, then obviously God is part of my story. We infer that God is the part in the story on the side that we are portraying it to be. So remember, we're in the land of Ziph, and therefore we're going to encounter Ziphites, right? Pick up in 19. Then the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah, and he said, "Is David not hiding with us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hill of Hakaliah, which is in the south of Jeshimon? Now then, O king, come down according to all the desire of your soul to do so, and our part shall be to surrender him into the king's hand." And Saul said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, for you have compassion on me. Go now, make more sure, investigate, see his place where his haunt is, and who has seen him there. For I am told that he's very cunning. So look and learn about the hiding places where he hides himself, and return to me with certainty, and I will go with you. And if he's in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah." Then they arose, went to Ziph before Saul. Now David and his men, well, they were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah to the south of Jeshimon. Okay, so I assume you caught that where Saul turns and says, "May you be blessed of the Lord, for you have had compassion on me." As in, may God grant favor on you. I'm imputing God's favor on you because you have had compassion on me. So one of the things that comes to mind sometimes is to ask, are we sure God's on board with that, right? Maybe second, what happens when we've said something and we've invoked the name of God in it, and then it doesn't happen. That'll probably give us something to think about later on. But suffice to say, please read this whole section, because it's somewhat interesting, especially if we're trying to wrap your head around this concept, right? Imagine a movie scene in your mind, because we essentially here, we have this vigilante hunt, right? This is almost like we're trying to find Robin Hood, and they just can't find him, no matter what the sheriff does. Saul is so busy. He's so focused on David. And I think maybe by inference in scripture, right? I'll say it's an inference for sure. But because he's out and about, he's chasing David around. The Philistines find it a convenient time to do what they've really basically always done. So at the end of 23, Saul gets word the Philistines are coming again. He has to stop pursuing David, take care of these menacing Philistines before they do more damage to his kingdom. And then there were those cute little points where they make it a point to name a place because of an event. This has always fascinated me. It's in 1 Samuel 23, verse 28. So Saul returned from pursuing David, and he went to meet the Philistines, and therefore they called the place the Rock of Escape. I'm not sure what that means. I just know that if they take time to mention something, it was probably significant in some way. And it led the storytellers there, when sharing the story later, to tie a place into their story. I often wonder sometimes in these stories, what the people who are being pulled around in the stories are thinking, right? Are all the people, the warriors who are accompanying Saul, are they all in agreement with Saul? Do they all share the same feeling that they should be hunting Saul, that they should be hunting David down at all? I've been in the military. I'm retired. 20 years. I'm aware of when the commander gives you an order, we follow the order. Of course, my personal experience in there was always pushing that particular border of order, but it remains a very real and active part, right? We follow incumbent leaders there in a military. We signed up. We agreed. We pledged to do so. So I, for one, I think I still understand them. As we begin chapter 24 next week, Saul's returned from pursuing the Philistines, and it's told that David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. So Saul, he gathers 3,000 men from his army in Israel. And he takes off to chase David down again. So thanks for being with us tonight on another episode of the first scroll of Samuel with Outside the Class on the Dusty Feet.